sometimes people are hesitant to do something bold. And to be effective, brands have to do something. And by definition, you have to do something different to stand out. But being different takes courage because not everybody's doing it. If they were, it wouldn't be different.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you have to have the confidence and the courage to step out of the norm, to do something that breaks the mold, to interrupt the pattern. And the biggest breakthroughs come from brands that believe in the process and are willing to step out of the ordinary and do something great.
From mastering the art of saving to harnessing the power of investments, we cover it all. But it's not just about the money. It's about cultivating a millionaire mindset that propels you towards success in every aspect of your life. Join our community of ambitious go-getters and discover the secrets to becoming a millionaire by morning. Subscribe now to Millionaire by Morning on your favorite podcast platform. And let's make your financial dreams a reality. Millionaire by Morning, where money mindset, motivation, and mastery meet. Subscribe today and unlock your path to prosperity.
New future millionaires out there who are tuning in today. We have a special guest with us, and I am excited to have him on today. And I tell you right now that you should be as well. He is a founder and CEO. Jed Morley is who we have with us today. He is a brand strategist who works with business leaders to build brands that scale by clarifying their purpose, articulating their value, and codifying their culture. And I'm going to keep it at that because we're going to learn a little bit more about Jed as we go on in the interview. And I would just like to say, as a marketer myself and someone who is really entwined into branding, welcome to the show today, Jed.
Thanks, Rashad. Great to be with you.
You as well, man. I checked out your story and really did a dive into your brand. You've worked with companies that I know, companies that I'm familiar with, BambooHR, Lucidchart. I'm sitting right here right now. I have a Lucidchart that I've printed out. So I'm really looking into getting into that and how you worked and helped with these companies. But first and foremost, let's get a little bit about your background and what even brought you into the sector of marketing and branding. How about that?
That's great. Good place to start. I studied design undergrad at Brigham Young University, and I went into design thinking that I was going to learn how to create a brand connection like I'd felt with brands that I grew up with, Nike being one of the most notable of those brands. I ran track and cross country coming up and felt a connection to the brand and what it represented, the courage and confidence to override the pain and the difficulty of trying to achieve your personal best. And I ran the half mile, and you round that last turn of the final lap of the 2 laps, and you're just out of gas. Your lactic acid is built up in your muscles and you feel like quitting. And the desire to do your best has to override that pain. So this idea of just do it really resonated with me, and what Nike stood for, their ethos as a brand, their promise to help you have the shoes and the equipment and the inspiration to achieve your personal best was at the core of what Nike represented. What I came to understand and realize that a brand is a lot more than a logo. It's the things people think of and feel when they hear your name or see your logo. It's a culmination of everything that someone's experienced with your brand. And so it's really everyone's responsibility to create the right impressions to shape and influence the desired perception you have for your brand and what your name and logo represent. the thoughts and feelings people associate with it. So ever since then, I've been in pursuit of trying to understand and crack the code and reverse engineer that emotional connection I felt with Nike growing up. And that path, that journey has led me to a process where we can repeatedly create those kinds of emotional connections between brands and their customers.
Got it. Understood. With you trying to, and I love that term, reverse engineer. That is my favorite term. Start with something and just take it back and create what they already created. With that, what was your education? What did where did you pick up on knowing that you wanted to do that and kind of decide that this will be the road that I take?
As I mentioned, I studied design undergrad, and from there I took a job working at an advertising and design agency and met someone who had gone through the integrated marketing communications program. Kirk Tanner was his name, a friend and a mentor. And he'd had a good experience going through that program at Northwestern University in Evanston, Illinois. And when I visited the campus, I sat in on a class from an adjunct professor named Lisa Fertini Campbell. And Lisa had a gift for getting people excited, myself included, about the idea of uncovering insights into what motivates people to connect with, engage, and do business with a brand. Sitting in on her class created this excitement in me to learn how to do that. And her classes were some of my favorites. So I ended up attending that program and graduating from it, the Integrated Marketing Communications program at Northwestern. Took a human-centered approach to marketing, and consumer insight, customer insight was at the heart of everything we did. That's what really put me on this path of reverse engineering the connections brands have with their customers. And once you've decoded that, systemizing it so that more people could communicate in a way that was on brand at scale to increase the growth and success of a growth stage company.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So you end up taking a job, working with a company or various companies. And within these companies, of course, you kind of took on that innovation or that movement, and that led to you starting your own company. Now, what I would like to get into a little bit, if you could give us a little mindset right there, just being the bridge. If you could speak a little more, if you could take us into what did it take for you to go from being on the employee side to starting your own business? Can you give us a mindset of what transpired there to make you make that entrepreneurial leap?
Making that entrepreneurial leap took time. I was getting more opportunities to consult, and I enjoyed those consulting opportunities. And over time, I was fortunate to meet the founders of BambooHR, and I had developed enough of a methodology by the time that we met that I was able to guide the founders of BambooHR, Ben Peterson and Ryan Sanders, through the process of clarifying and articulating their brand purpose. We set people free to do great work. That purpose statement has been a guiding North Star in helping the executive team and everyone throughout the company make decisions that are on brand since we first articulated that back in 2013, 2014. There were just 30 people in the company back then. Now there's north of 1,300 people. And the business and the brand lived those values. So they wanted to make work a place that would set people free for their internal employees, not just for their customers. The benefit of living the brand inside as well as outside is that a lot of the people who were part of that founding core have stayed with the company. And that institutional knowledge, the camaraderie, the rapport, the expertise, the insight, the institutional knowledge that those employees developed over the years has created a really successful company. And that experience gave me some exposure. There were other people who saw the work that we had done together at BambooHR. They asked who did it or who was involved in it. And Ben and Ryan were gracious enough to refer me to those people, founders, founder-led companies that wanted to create a distinctive brand that set them apart from the competition in a way that had soul, in a way that resonated with their employees and their customers. And more consulting opportunities grew from there. And I came to realize that brand strategy and messaging was my core unique ability. And I decided to lean in on that. And it's become almost a calling. I feel like it's what I was meant to do. It took time to find it, but now that I'm in that groove, it feels like a great fit.
I'm glad you said that. I am so glad that you said that. That is, if I had any message on this show, and if I could tell the world, preach to the world, it may take a little time to find what it is that you should be doing, what you're good at. It may take a little time. And I like how you said that it basically just, it came to you and you leaned into it. And that's just where it's at now. You know, it is what it is. And you're able to offer a tremendous service because of it.
That's right. You know, the founders of these companies, they're brave and they're visionary. They can see things other people can't. Sometimes, like Moses went to the mountain and came down with a vision. He had a new, expansive vision of what was possible. And God provided Moses with Aaron to be a mouthpiece for Moses, to be able to articulate that vision. So we work with visionary founders and give voice to their vision. We respect and honor them as the innovators. We're trying to be a help to them in clarifying and articulating the value of what they have created, what they envision, what they want to bring to pass in the market. And it's a pleasure and a privilege to work with people that have new ideas and have awesome. the courage to bring them to market. And they have to dare to be great. Right. What I mean by that is sometimes people are hesitant to do something bold. And to be effective, brands have to do something. And by definition, you have to do something different to stand out. But being different takes courage because not everybody's doing it. If they were, it wouldn't be different.
That's right.
So you have to have the confidence and the courage to step out of the norm, to do something that breaks the mold, to interrupt the pattern. And the biggest breakthroughs come from brands that believe in the process and are willing to step out of the ordinary and do something great.
Right. So Jed, when you are approaching these companies, let's say you're doing a consultation for a company, and within this company, you see greatness. Let's take BambooHR. Like you really, that company has really grown. When you're speaking to a company that are, just getting started, when you sit down with them and you see something that they don't see, do you relay that to them at that time? Or do you allow them to, because a lot of the time, just human nature, people can't see the forest for the trees. They can't see that far. They don't know how great that they may be. Do you relay that to them and say, hey man, listen, I know you're doing these numbers. I know that, but I can tell you how good or how great this company can possibly be.
We do communicate that. We like to back up our recommendations with data. And a lot of the data that we use to back up those recommendations comes from in-depth interviews, testing messaging, testing hypotheses that we think could resonate. And it's a co-creative process. When you interview members of the internal team, leadership, executive level, members of that internal team along with rank and file employees. You start to get a picture of how they see themselves. And then you compare and contrast that to the way customers, partners, and investors see the brand and the business. Sometimes there's a lot of alignment. Sometimes there are gaps between those perceptions. The job of a brand strategist is to help the leaders of a company understand the words, images, and experiences that will help to close the gap between the current perception and the desired perception. And this process goes deeper than just a cosmetic makeover. So it's true, you can refresh a brand, you can create a new logo, a new look and feel, and you may need to do something more fundamental, more structural than that, because there might be something more that the company could offer or something they should stop doing to make the signal even more clear and strong that resonates with customers. And finding out what resonates is a process where you test messaging, you find out, and you actually co-create. It's a collaborative process with customers, testing messaging, saying what parts of this message resonate with you and why, or what doesn't resonate, and is anything missing? Time and again, we see scenarios where customers help us on behalf of our clients create the messaging that ends up breaking through and setting the company apart from its competitors, cutting through the clutter, cutting through the noise. Did we come up with it exclusively at Backstory? No, we facilitated a process that uncovered it, and we were able to recognize those insights, those moments of truth, and amplify them. And so it's the data that backs up our recommendations that gives teams confidence to say, okay, hey, let's set aside our differences. Let's rally around the messages that Backstory has tested and validated because they've got data to support it. Now it's not just my opinion versus yours. Let's not worry about who's right. Let's worry about the right message and let's align behind it.
Awesome. Awesome, man. You mentioned earlier that you kind of jumped into it and you love the just do it from Nike and you figured that branding was just that. So, me similar. I went into college thinking that marketing, I believe I had it mixed up. Marketing was advertising, right? I just wanted to be a creative. I was a creative. And come to find out, when I left college, anyone that had marketing for a job, it was sales. They were hiring for sales. Like, so, you know, I would like to ask you what percentage, because the reason that I threw that in there is my question is this: marketing has so many branches. So you have so many branches that lead to marketing, which is, advertising, you have branding, sales, you have so many things that work together. What part of branding, what percentage of branding is included in marketing, the entire process?
That's a good question. We see companies that have adopted a philosophy that is very performance marketing oriented. As you know, performance marketing is all about making money. Making money is really important. Those transactions, the conversion rates from one stage of the funnel to the next, you absolutely need to track that. You need to optimize for it. At the same time, you need a strategy to inform the content and the campaigns that you're running through your performance marketing process and systems. Where do those ideas come from? A lot of times companies literally throw ideas against the wall and see what sticks. It's a pretty ineffective way of trying to grow a business. If you have insights, you have an understanding of what resonates with customers and why or why not, and make adjustments and then do fine tuning through A/B testing rather than trying to discover what works and really not understanding possibly why it works, because you just know that this ad outperformed that ad. And so you run this ad until something outperforms it. But if you don't have an underlying understanding of who your audience is and why they resonate with the offer and the message, you're going to be throwing a lot of darts that miss the bullseye. And that's expensive. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and you may miss the mark. You might be hitting the board, but not hitting the bullseye. So we really believe that it's important to get the strategy right. That's why you see on our website and in my book, Building a Brand That Scales, we educate and outline the process of building a brand that scales by saying the inner circle is the place to start. The inner circle consists of 5 foundational elements: your brand purpose, the difference you make beyond making money, your brand position, what you stand for in the minds of customers, and what sets you apart from the competitors that they bring to the conversation, their context. Third, your brand promise, your overarching value proposition to your customers. Number 4, brand pillars, your 5 biggest differentiators and the benefits they provide. And then the 5th and final element is brand personality. How does your brand look, or how should it look, sound, and feel? You get that foundation right, then you can build messaging frameworks, just like framing a house. But unless you have that foundation, you're just guessing. And brands can easily lose their way. They chase fads, trends, they mimic, copy competitors, and the next thing you know, they have an identity crisis. They don't know what makes them unique. So they have short-term success, and they struggle to sustain it if they don't have an underlying strategy. The outer ring of the wheel is where performance marketing, and I'm referring to the backstory brand wheel framework, the inner 2 circles, foundation and expression, set the strategy. They clarify what to say to your respective audiences, ICPs and personas. And then the outer ring is taking that story to market. Once you've tested it, validated it, clarified and articulated it, now you're ready to take the story to market at scale because you know what to communicate and why. And that's when the biggest brand breakthroughs happen. When you combine the best of the inner 2 circles, which is brand marketing, with the outer circle, performance marketing, you get the best of both worlds. And that's where we see the biggest success stories.
This is so good. This is so good. For anyone out there listening, go buy the book. We're speaking with a brand expert. And the reason I say this is because as a person that's been in marketing for 20 plus years, I can remember a time where there were flyers. I knew numbers based off flyers that you would hand out. And there was no A/B testing. There was handing out a lot of flyers. There was taking out advertisements in newspapers and running billboards and commercials. And you spent that money. The only A/B testing was you redo it and spend a whole lot of money again. That was the only testing that it was. Now it's a little simpler. You can do this in your process. I read a little bit about you do the research that you provide, the research that you do, first and foremost, not only within the company, but also you do it with the customers. And I think I read, a case study to where you actually ask the customers what it is that they want. Now, what I would ask you based on that, Jed, is when you are researching these customers, how far along do the company have to be for you to be able to do that? I know that you show that you have a couple of different rungs, that where the customer, come in at, based on employees or how much money they make. But when you first begin to do this research, these are companies, are they at their starting stage? Are they ready to sell? Where are the companies at?
We tend to do our best work when companies have already established product market fit. They're doing $1 million in revenue, annual revenue, all the way up to 100 million. So anywhere in that range, we can help them find the next stage of growth. The reason I say they need to have product market fit is they're at an inflection point. An inflection point means a next stage of growth is ready for them to take on. And typically what that means is they're hiring their first team, their first sales leader, and those salespeople need to know what to communicate. And the team gets bigger, then the founder can directly train and teach.
Right.
So when the team's growing beyond what the founding salespeople can do themselves, there has to be some kind of a systematic way of enrolling and onboarding new salespeople to teach them what to say to these different audiences. Same thing with marketing. So the founder's taking off some hats, or taking off the sales hat and or the marketing hat. And now you've got to be able to teach and share the message, or maybe the company's adding a new product or going into a new market, reaching out to a new audience. The story that got you here is not going to get you there, meaning it's not going to get you to that next stage of growth. We've worked with companies that have had a lot of success, but they're plateaued. They don't know how to grow beyond the base of success they've already established. So we like to talk about message market fit. Product market fit has gotten a lot of attention, and it's well-deserved. Eric Ries, Ash Maurya, and others have taught principles of the lean startup, where you design a business model, iteratively test the business model, you design a solution to the problem, you make sure you're solving a problem that people are willing to pay for you to solve, so that you don't invest a lot of time and money in a product that people aren't willing to buy or you can't make a business out of. Equally important is message market fit. You've got to test the words that communicate the value to make sure that they're resonating. We had a client that had happy customers, but it was taking too long to sell the next customer. And the reason why was because they had words that didn't resonate. We found that out by talking to customers. And we had made some assumptions. We were using investor-oriented language with customers, and that created a disconnect. And once we identified the mixed messages that we were sending, we were able to clarify, realign, and it got them a lot more head nods. It got them a lot more meetings and opportunities to do bigger, better deals, because now they had the right words to unlock the hearts, minds, and ultimately the wallets of the right kinds of customers. So product market fit, yes, really important. Message market fit, equally important.
So to cut through it all, your expertise is giving people what they want.
It's giving people what they want, yes, but also finding the right words to communicate the fact that you have
What they
solved
want.
the problem. Yeah, you have what they want. And how can you communicate that in a way that they recognize, oh, that's for me?
Right.
And we shouldn't assume that we know what people want or how to communicate what we've created to solve for their wants. And
Exactly.
that's what you mentioned, how do you reframe the value? The way we found is to test and see where people find the biggest value in what you're solving for them and bringing to market. And that inspires and informs new ideas. There's a company called Claravine we worked with, and they initially took a long time to explain what they did. And we were able to boil that down to a concise, consistent message. We also unlocked an idea of positioning them as the data standards company. They create taxonomies which establish standard ways of referring to campaigns so that you can stitch together, you can splice different data sets. And bigger companies have lots of agency relationships. A lot of people are running different campaigns. When you can combine the data on the back end, you can make real-time marketing decisions. So if you don't have the same names, you can't make changes to affect the outcome of the game. It'd be like a football team getting the stats after the game's over, instead of having the information they need to see how the plays are going and making adjustments while there's still time to affect the results of that sequence, that series, that quarter, that half of the game, so that they can actually win. So we positioned Claravine as the data standards company. That gave them a way of framing their value to the market that elevated the perceived value. but we didn't make it up. It wasn't something we just thought of out of thin air. It was an idea. We tested it in conversations with customers, and they said, yeah, that's exactly what they do. And then we recommended that they double down on it. So yes, it's a creative process, but it's anchored in insights and strategy.
Right, right. I think that that's what's so intriguing, because creativity and analytics and strategy, that's like the left brain and the right brain. Everyone has always separated the two, but now they come together in a sense.
They do.
And that's what's so intriguing about it.
Yeah, we've got to find a way to jam together. You know, I went to a Wynton Marsalis concert one time, the great jazz trumpeter. And he's at the Lincoln Center in New York, and he's, in my view, the steward of jazz for the US and maybe the world. He's the keeper of the legacy of jazz, and he highlights and spotlights new talent. And his stewardship includes knowing who to spotlight. So in his group, different people take solos, and the spotlight literally shines on them, and they stand out, they stand up, they stand out, they highlight their talent, and then they sit down, the audience applauds, and then somebody else, the band comes back together, they make music together that none of them could make on their own, and then somebody gets a solo again with the support of the rest of the group. And that's an analogy to me that is consistent with what we've seen with modern marketing. There are going to be different aspects of marketing that are highlighted, but then you come back and it needs to blend. And the analytics and the creative and the strategy need to blend. Otherwise, you're going to have a lot less interesting music to listen to or to play, because you're only going to have one or two instruments. Whereas you could have the whole full round sound of the group playing music together that none of them could create on their own.
Yeah, I like that analogy. That's good. That's good, Jed. I like that. I'm a lover of music. I like that analogy.
Thanks.
That's
it
weird.
just
That,
it
go
sounds
ahead.
better. You know, it feels better when you've got that combination of instruments.
yeah.
And that's where we need to have all these specialties come together.
Yeah, yeah, in marketing. I tell people all the time, the thing about marketing is I look at it as a culmination of things. Like, it's artistic, it's science, it's math, it's anything that you kind of want to throw at it. Like, you can, you just have to end up knowing that, was that a good mix? Should we take it out?
Yeah.
Put it somewhere else? But as far as marketing, it kind of culminates all type of strategies and studies and and
And
I'm
talent.
fine with that. Like, I think that's what I like about it.
Yeah, talent. Just the talent, the strengths different people bring to the conversation, and appreciating those different strengths. If we take a purely analytical approach, you're not going to have as much emotional resonance. You're not going to build a brand. You might win the day. You might have a good week, a good month, a good quarter, but how do you sustain that once
Right.
you pick the low hanging fruit? Because you really haven't built an identity for your brand. You haven't built a community. There's no reason to keep the relationship going, aside from the fact that in that moment, you were the best offer available.
Yeah.
And if you go in too heavily on brand marketing, you might have a lot of brand awareness. People might think well of you. Your ads might make them laugh. But if you're not synchronized and integrated with analytics, you're not going to convert enough of them to make the business work.
Right.
So it's not either or, it's and.
It's an and.
It's the and.
It's an and. It's I like to add on to that, and to keep with the music thing. It's not coincidence that in music, people that start small and do the small circuits and play in the small circuits and grow and are out there shaking hands and kissing babies, and in our time was on flyers and passing out flyers, posters, and grew through that process it's not a coincidence that those are the people that are still, they have the 30 and 40 and 50-year careers, right? It's the one night, the one hit artist that someone discovered them, took them into the studio, the song was really good, fly by night, and you never hear of them again.
Yeah.
It's the ones that has sustained because I think that they have gathered the data. They know what people, and comedians say this all the time. I've heard comedians say this all the time. And I do. I've worked in entertainment, so that's what I always fall back on. But even in like comedians, when they start in the smaller circuits, they just learn what people like. They learn to keep in touch with people. They, they build lead generation magnets. They
Yeah.
selling stuff at the back as they're performing. So it just grows and grows and grows organically. So I like to say that that's all a part of it. And like you were saying, it's a strategy that has to come together. Um, and that's the data aspect, analytic aspect. That's the talent going with it. That's everything.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's
so yeah,
playing those small clubs, they can see and feel and read people. Did that joke land?
yeah,
And we would say, did that message hit?
right,
And you can see it in people's facial expressions and energy. It's kind of like being a good gift giver. If you've ever had somebody give a gift to you where you really felt understood, you're like, wow, they've been paying attention.
right,
They understand me, they care about me, they appreciate me. Whereas if somebody's just doing the token gift, on Father's Day, it might be a tie or a pair of socks. Who really needs that?
right.
Versus I had an opportunity, my father-in-law wears a brand of shirt in the summertime. It's a polo shirt in different colors and it says Orvis. Orvis is a fly fishing brand, but he never fly fishes. So one time I said, "Hey Kelly, why Orvis?" He goes, "I really like their stuff. And besides, I like to fly fish." I said, "You do? I haven't seen you fly fish." Well, I haven't had anyone to go with. I had some things come up where I couldn't do it for a while, but I have the gear and I really like it. So we pooled together as siblings and bought him an outing with a fly fishing guide. I've never seen him smile bigger or
Right.
more from the heart that day. The guide said, "You're going to forget how to count to 10 today." And I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because you're not going to be able to keep track of how many fish we catch." So, you can be close to someone physically, but unless you take time to understand who they are and where they're coming from and what they care about, you're going to be giving them gift cards, which don't necessarily communicate that you really understand them versus, hey, a fly fishing trip. And the difference is caring enough to ask and to listen and take the time to really understand the underlying reasons why they think and do what they do.
Exactly. That's awesome, man. Yeah, that that's a commercial. I don't know if you've ever said that in a commercial before for your brand, but
Yeah.
that's good. That's real good.
And we've got,
Uh,
holidays coming up and we're going to be giving and getting gifts.
yeah,
And what's more fun than getting the perfect gift? It's giving it.
you're right. And looking at the person's face
Yeah.
as you're giving it to them, like that's the biggest joy that you could have is watching their mouth drop.
Yeah. And you can save it up. You can find the gift you're going to give for Christmas on January 5th and save it for a year and anticipate the moment when they're going to open it and love it. And instead of it being a last minute, last ditch effort like I've done and we've all done because we didn't plan ahead or didn't think or remember what somebody is really about. And if we can deepen our understanding of who our customers are and why they want to solve the problems and what it feels like to wrestle with this issue that we're going to help them overcome, that empathy can fuel all kinds of inspiration and insights as to what would really, really delight them.
Right. Get them moving.
Yeah. People
Yeah,
can feel that, brands that you have a relationship with, Rashad, and that I have a relationship, it's because they understand something about us.
that's right. That's right. You know what? I want to ask this. You are, your company is into products and services. Does this work the same? Would you approach this the same as, say, personal branding?
I'm glad you asked that. Personal branding can definitely put these principles into practice. I've had the opportunity to, in my church group, I have become a mentor to some young adults. These people are in their mid 20s and early 30s, that age range. Some of them have found their career and they're grooving. Other people have a job and they're feeling kind of stuck. And we take time to meet one on one. And I've let people know, hey, if you need help getting a better job, or if you feel like your career is not on track, let's talk about it. And we have an open hearted conversation where I ask them about what parts of their work really resonate, which are not doing it for them, and what do they think they might enjoy. And we take time from a personal branding perspective to get clear about the major themes that they want to lean into professionally. And you can see them start to light up when they consider the possibilities. And then we give voice to their vision of where they can go from where they are to where they want to go. And it might take time. There might be education. There might be other things they need to do. But we start by updating their LinkedIn profile and resume with a new way of framing their value, a new way of seeing the possibilities. And it instills confidence in people from a personal branding standpoint when they're more clear about what makes them unique and valuable. I believe everyone is a child of God, and we've all been given gifts. And this is a divine principle that I'm talking about now. And if we get more familiar and aware of what our God given gifts are and showcase those and look for examples of times when we've been able to put those to work, and we can celebrate the success that resulted from that and register and recognize and communicate a more clear, consistent signal. This is what I'm about. This is what really makes me unique. And this is how you can put my talents to work in a way that will benefit you and your company. Then it's a win for the worker and it's a win for the employer. And I really love helping people uncover their God given gifts and be able to showcase that and communicate it.
That's good. I am that's that's good because I also believe that we all have God-given talents. And my reason for asking that question is because, I know people that, even me, myself, as far as this podcast, it is about building personal brands. For that reason. But when I think about companies and I think about how successful companies are, people that are moving along and making their mark on the world within those companies, I see having their own story being told. The Steve Jobs, you have Berkshire Hathaway, who wouldn't want who wouldn't want to who wouldn't want Warren Buffett at a on stage? Who wouldn't pay for that? So I look at it in a way, and I say that because that's kind of what I'm into is personal branding. But I look at it as being just as valuable as the products and the services, the branding. Jed, people would love to hear this story. People would love to read your book and watch you on stage because you can just lead a movement of other people that are trying to do exactly what it is that you're doing. So that's why I asked that question. Like, I think that personal branding, products and services that we are also great, but don't forget about the CEO, the CMO, the COO. You know, there's so much there that people can tell their story about. So I'm glad you answered that question. And just like you, I do believe that we all have God-given talents.
We do. And sometimes it's hard to see them. That's why it's helpful to have a coach, a friend, a mentor, a guide. Recognize what's unique about us. Sometimes it's so effortless to do the things we're meant to do that we don't consider them as being special.
Right.
So we need to be on the lookout for times when people compliment us or appreciate something that we've done that has really helped them. Start to see a pattern emerge of, hey, maybe this is an aspect or maybe the core unique ability that I could build my brand around.
That's right. That's right. And legacy. We can't forget about that. You're building your brand, but you're also building your legacy. You can't forget that, hey, I built this. I built this.
That's absolutely right. You can really bless a lot of people's lives by doing what you were meant to do at a high level and getting clear about your brand. It doesn't have to be a selfish, self-serving activity or exercise. The more clear you are about who you are, the more you can enlist other people's talents.
Right.
I like what Dan Sullivan, he's the founder of Strategic Coach. He talks about who, not how. And you think about something you'd like to do, but you don't know how, and it's not maybe your unique ability. Well, you can be prayerful. You can look up and join groups and be part of communities where you can find other people who have complementary talents to round out and complement what you do well. Now you're getting what you want, but you're also blessing the life of somebody else and helping them get what they want by putting their talents to work.
Right.
And that's
Right.
really fun to think about. Entrepreneurship is a team sport. Nobody gets to be successful alone. So who are you going to surround yourself with? In what ways can you round out your talents with other people in a complementary way?
Exactly. You know, well, I'll get on with it. We can go into that all day long. I want to know, Jed, where do you see Backstory going? Is this a company that you are looking to exit with, or are you looking to grow it, or what's the future looking like?
Yeah, we definitely want to grow it and exit. And the reason I want to exit is because I want to spend all of my time serving my family, my church, and my community. And to be able to do that, you've got to be able to fund that lifestyle. So as much as I love what I do for work, I also see an opportunity in the not too distant future to be able to spend more time being of more service to more people. And so I've earned a professional credential called a CEPA, a Certified Exit Planning Advisor. And that's given me a new appreciation for how to increase and accelerate the value of a company by looking at 4 intangible capitals: human capital, customer capital, structural capital, and social capital. None of those capitals show up on a balance sheet, but they are the way you increase and enhance the transferable value of a company so that someone else can buy it and have confidence that the earnings that you've been able to produce are repeatable. A lot of companies and founders, I'm sure you've seen this, Rashad, the businesses are too dependent on the founder. And if the founder were to not be part of the company, the revenues and the earnings would go down.
Definitely.
So to be able to transfer the value, you've got to create processes and relationships that are not overly dependent on the founder. You've got to have somebody else be able to recreate that same success. So we're building processes at Backstory that would allow someone else to carry the torch, to inherit the mantle and carry it forward. We're also developing a software platform called OnMessage that takes the clarity that either you or you in partnership with a consultancy like Backstory create clarity around your messaging. And that's both at a company level, brand or company messaging, along with audience messaging specific to different market segments. And then you take it to market at scale with consistency. So clarity and consistency. The consistency piece is AI enabled. The difference is you get out of it what you put into it. So we're putting in really clean, focused, curated, validated messaging as inputs to that AI engine that's all part of OnMessage. You can choose your AI tool of choice, whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Perplexity, and produce content tailored to each audience and each channel of communication. So whether it's a social media ad, an email series of email drips, a landing page, website copy, a brochure, a proposal, a presentation, you can use the message library that is a structured way of organizing your messaging. And OnMessage is the name of that application, and it's ready to use today. So that's another way that we're getting ready to create transferable value along with our consulting business. We've got this productized offering called OnMessage, which is a complementary offering. And like I said, it's independent of Backstory. We're using it for our client engagements. They're getting a lot of value out of it, but it's also available for other agencies and companies that want to clarify their story and consistently communicate it at scale.
Oh,
So
wow.
regardless of who's using the tool, they don't have to be an expert writer. They don't have to be expert at creating long series of prompts. They can say, I want to create this content for this audience, and it happens in seconds.
It happens in seconds. And you have the consultancy to follow up with that, basically. So if they're not getting it 100% correct and, looking into it, you have the backup for that company. I think that's awesome,
right.
Jed.
Yeah, it's a 1-2 value proposition. And we have had a lot of great conversations with other agencies who have caught the vision, because it's a lot to manage if you have these custom GPTs for all these clients. And then what do you do when it's time to update those GPTs? How do you keep everybody up to date with the latest version? That's why we think having a central single source of truth in OnMessage, where you create that message library where you can update it, you can give it guidelines and guardrails as to what is consistent with your brand in terms of your brand voice, your brand personality. All of that can be managed in one central location. And now everybody's on brand, everybody's on message all the time.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Your team and everyone.
Everybody is aligned.
Awesome. So, Jed, where can people find you? Your socials, your website, and drop your book link in there as well. Well, I have your book link in the comments, so you can make mention of it.
Sure. Yeah. So it's backstorybranding.com is the website. You can take our free brand wheel assessment there to take stake of the current state of your brand and its readiness to scale. It's color coded. You get your personalized results in an email that shows you where you're clear in green, where you're being defined in orange, and where you're not yet defined in red. And the goal is to get everything green so you can go to market at scale with clarity and consistency. The inner two circles, strategy and expression, and then activation on that outer ring. That's the brand performance on the outer side, outer piece, outer ring of the wheel. And the inner two circles are brand marketing. Brand performance marketing is encompassed in that whole brand wheel framework. And then I'm on LinkedIn. Would love to connect with your audience on LinkedIn. The book is called Building a Brand That Scales, and it's available on Amazon. It's an Amazon bestseller.
So awesome. So awesome. Anyone that has tuned in to this particular podcast, there is so much here. There's so much here to gather. Even myself, I like I say, 20 plus years in marketing. If you follow me, you know that I'm big on branding, I'm big on marketing, advertising. But today has been a special episode here with Jed, founder and CEO of Backstory. This is a podcast that you may want to rewind a few times and pick the book up, because as you can see, he's well versed in what it is that he does. And we're all trying to build brands right now in the year of 2025 and moving forward. You need to be really specific on your branding, your marketing, your messaging. And that is something that Jed Morley teaches. Thank you for coming on the show today, Jed. You really gave us some insight and very good knowledge.
Rashad, thanks so much for having me. I feel like you've been magnifying your gifts by inviting people on, and it's a pleasure to be able to talk to somebody that's passionate about what they do. Thank you.
So awesome. So awesome. To anyone listening out there, remember to keep making moves, make money, and make meaningful memories. Until next time, talk to you later.